We now return to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Okay. A muzzle line was seen just by close judge. I'm going to press innocent. Yes, that's print. This one.
Objection!
Those two statements clearly contradict each other. Good Lord's counsel, explain yourself. Oh my statement contradictory. Contradicts. C-O-N. Juror number 6, you've got the wrong end of the stick. I do not have stick, I have mouse. As juror number 2 said earlier, when the Skulkin brothers fled the scene on the night in question, they fired a shot from their revolver. Yes, they shot poor Mr. Sholmes in the abdomen, I understand. Surely you're not going to tell the court now that you didn't hear. Abdomen. Abdomen. A-B-T. Sir? Sorry. My English is still learning. You are telling the court you didn't hear. Forgive me, I did not hear. Here's what. Abdomen. Part of person's body containing stomach and other vital organs. If this is what you mean, you should say in plain English, I'm Russian, not native speaker. I thought it was a good idea to let this man be on the jury again. So, you're telling me these brothers who look like criminals were lying. I don't know what accents I am giving you. They said before, we have never done nothing, but truth is, they shot detective. That is double negative. Yes, that's exactly right. Lying is wrong, especially when lie is said by person who is like criminal. Coming from you, that seems surprisingly prejudiced. This means, when they said, we never took nothing, maybe it was also a big fat lie. Is this true? Well, according to the police report, no stolen goods were found, so... Enough. I trust no one now. It's not the mouse's fault, though, sir. I must see with my own eyes. I must investigate crime scene myself. Now you're Austrian. Is that possible? Yes, it is, Ryuno, easily. I'm sorry. With the prints from Hurley's red-handed recorder. If you compare the print that pictures Ginny and the next print from half an hour later, we'll be able to see straight away if anything was taken or not. Cooey, Mr. Prosecutor. Calling on the prosecution in the middle of a summation examination of all times. The print showing the accused threatening the victim after she broke into the shop is this one. Following this, the victim and the accused moved into the storeroom. Meanwhile, the Skulkin brothers entered the shop and summarily heard the fatal gunshot ring out. Sadly, none of these events were captured on film. This is the print produced by the camera half an hour later, after the brothers' flight. This was taken after Hurley was shot then. As far as I can tell, nothing has been taken. That does seem to be the case. I can't notice anything that's obviously missing in the second print, except maybe part of the lantern that was shattered. So the brothers who took this criminal told only one lie. They shot men, but they stole nothing. It would seem so, yes. Good. No, not good. You're right, I did not understand the situation. Now I know brothers have lied. I think it is very important to continue the trial. Yay, well done, Ryuno. The balance is shifting. Well, it's a start, I suppose. There must be more in what these jurors are saying that I can use to expose the truth. And if I can do that, we just might turn the situation to our favor still. Thank you, counsel. Continue with the summation examination. And kindly hand that new photographic print to the bailiff to be filed as evidence. The post-shooting photograph has been entered into the court record. Now we've got our photograph. Another print in the court record. I wonder if we can use that. In the lake of lies are many dead fish. We must find truth. Therefore I say, not guilty verdict. Okay, but let's just go back to you.
Hold it!
Can it really show up new clues, though? Don't know unless you try. How about this print here?
Take that!
Alright then, juror number 3. Are you saying you can do it with any 2 suitable photographs? Of course I can. Well, here you go. I'd be delighted to. Just give me another one, it'll amaze you all. So this one.
Take that!
Alright, these 2 prints were both taken with the same camera at Windibanks on the night in question. Yes, I see. Tell me, Mr. Lawyer. Do you know how stereographic images work? Yes, we've been told extensively. Do you understand the principle? Well, I think so. I did have a lesson only yesterday. The left and right eye images need to be the same, only with a slight shift in the positions of some objects. Then, when your brain merges the 2 images together inside your head, it notices the shift as if it were depth. Yes, exactly. It's that small shift between certain objects in the 2 pictures that's really important. So what happens if you use 2 photographs that are exactly the same, then? No, obviously that wouldn't work at all. Not for seeing the scene 3-dimensionally, anyway. Oh, of course, now I see it. I think the young girl's discovered the secret. I have. Can you uncross your eyes before you tell me? Have another look at these 2 pictures from Hurley's camera, Bruno. Go on. Can you see that there's a really obvious difference between them? I just want to see if this actually shows up 3-dimensionally. It's actually really hard to see it when there's not a... So the people, that's an interesting effect. The people disappear. Of course there is. There are 2 people in the first and no people in the second. Well, yes, you can see that straight away. But now, try looking at the picture in 3 dimensions. Alright, I'll give it a go. So to start with, you have to cross your eyes and then try to make the 2 pictures of... all of you, and myself included, will be experts in stereography when this is over. Let's see if by crossing my eyes I can make the quill pens from each picture overlap in the middle. Wait. Well, did you manage to see it properly, Bruno? Oh shit, no, god damn, fuck! I'm just not very good at this, that's the trouble. No, don't worry. I have just the thing. I happened to bring with me a portable stereoscope. I know I mentioned this yesterday, but if you had that contraption with you from the outset, you could have saved me staring at Mr. Windibank and Gina like I hated them all that time. And if you remember, I said in reply that it's much more satisfying to be able to see the effect with your own eyes. Anyway, why don't we try using this helpful little aid now? Yes, I wouldn't need to do this, because I already know. Now, let's see what we've got. Wait, look at that. What's going on with these 2 pictures? Some of the things on the counter are sort of jump out at you. Yes, that's it, you see. That's the other amazing power of stereoscopes. Other amazing power? So we're going to explain black magic, eh? Why the deuce do some of the things on the counter seem to jump out at you like that, hmm? I think you'll find that if you consider the basic principle of the stereoscope, you'll find the answer to your own answer to your own question. Basic principles of the stereoscope? As I said before, if you try to look at two identical pictures using a stereoscope, it won't work at all. It's the slight shift in the positions of certain objects that lets you see pictures three-dimensionally. In other words, even though at first glance it seems the objects on the counter haven't moved at all between the two pictures, this shows that there must have been a slight shift in their positions. Yes, there must have been. Now, old father, sir, I've got a reasonable grasp of this whole cross-eyed business now, I'd say. But why the devil does this shift between the two prints exist in the first place? Well, what's the answer, fellow? Come on, you're the cross-eyed master. What, me? I haven't the first idea. You know, Bruno, it's quite simple. It is? Just think it through step by step. The first photograph was taken at 1 AM. Then, 30 minutes later, the second photograph was taken. But the position of some items on the counter appear to have shifted slightly. In the interim... So that means that sometime in the half-hour interval, someone must have tampered with the things on the counter. Zookas! Someone tampered? New information, stop. Not mentioned in testimony so far. Yes, we've had to go around in circles a little here, it seems, but I'm starting to see what I should be aiming at in this summation examination now. Ladies and gentlemen, the question now is clear. We know the items on the countertop were moved, but by whom? Are you suggesting you might know? Of course. I can tell you right now who's responsible for the almost imperceptible shift in the items on the counter. I don't know. It had to be from behind the counter, right? Perhaps as he was pushing the curtain to the side? I didn't actually look at that to see.
Take that!
Just go through all of them. Quite clearly, it was the work of this meddler. I'm afraid you've digressed there, Counsel. Oh. It should now be clear even to you who is responsible for the impeachable shift in the direction of this trial towards the absurd. Let me guess. Me? Shift aside, my Nipponese friend, and let the real lawyers do the talking. I really felt that one. If you think about it, it has to have been someone who was in Windibanks when everything was going on, doesn't it? Well, yes, that's true. So? That narrows it down quite a lot, I think. I'll have another think. We know somebody must have touched the things on Mr. Windibank's counter, so who was it? Ladies and gentlemen, the question now is clear. We know the items of the countertop were moved, but by whom? Fucking let's do this.
Take that!
As the witness is currently in the stand, the Skolkin brothers. So it's actually Gina. Wait, this does not agree with what the brothers said in testimony before. They said they did not even have a time to pull dukes from Lucy Lockets. My friend's book says dukes is meaning hands, and Lucy Lockets is meaning pockets. But is this another lie? Is this what you're saying? Yes, I'm afraid so. Hold on a minute there. You can't be sure of that. I quite agree. The accused is a common pickpurse, after all. It's perfectly possible that she went through the things on the desk to see what she might steal. I think that's unlikely. And why exactly? As you can see from this photographic print, the defendant was pointing a gun at the victim. It would seem, as my learned friend indicated, that she was coercing Mr. Windibank to open the storeroom door. In other words, Ms. Lestrade's interests lay within the storeroom, not in the main shop, giving her no reason to touch anything on the counter. All of which points to one thing. The Skolkin brothers have omitted key facts in their testimony. Not gonna lie, they had me in the first half. The accused is a pickpurse, common gutter trash. Why look any further for the wrongdoer here? because the Skulkin brothers are thieves, madam. No better, in fact, worse, than a pick purse. I believe that these brothers were looking for something on the victim's counter that night. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you would condemn the defendant on the grounds that she's a pickpocket, would it not at least be right and proper to thoroughly scrutinize testimony given against her by two thieves?
Well said. I, for one, would like to hear more from that shady pair.
Can you all see now? I think you'll find Stereoscopes aren't playthings. You've seen their extraordinary potential firsthand. I wholeheartedly agree. Stop. Must purchase after trial. Stop. Will return home via Regent Street. Stop.
Well, it would seem this trial is yet to run its course. The ladies and gentlemen of the jury have declared their inclinations via the mighty scales of justice. I hereby call this summation examination to conclusion with the balance altered in the defendant's favor. 2 lean to guilty, 4 lean to not guilty. Accordingly, the jury is without consensus. And I order this trial to continue.
Hey, we're done. Oh, by the way, what? You should hold on to this, Runo. You never know when it might come in useful. Twice in one trial would be unusual, surely, but all right. The Stereoscope has been entered into the court record.
Lord Van Zeeks, you will instruct the witnesses that the court demands additional testimony from them.
I'm sure it won't spoil the bouquet to do so, my lord. I've won myself another chance to probe that pair about their activities that night at least, but I won't stop probing them until I've proven that Gina is innocent. To be continued. Well, this one's going to be a long one, so we'll just continue on. Really, the only way to play this game is in hour chunks. Sure, we'll save the progress.
Order, please. Let us resume proceedings. The witnesses, you will now retake the stand. I presume you heard the defense's and counsel's summation examination.
They were standing up against the wall, so I would hope so. Oh, yeah, Governor.
I did, Gov, I did.
Mr. and Mr. Skulkin.
God, blimey.
This is going to be hard work. Earlier in this trial, you gave the following testimony about your actions after you entered Windibanks.
Those Bedlam soon was, wasn't it? It was, Nash, it was, because didn't even have time to pour me Dukes happy Lucy lockets.
However, that was a lie. You brothers.
God, blimey.
On the night in question, you rifled through the items on the victim's counter.
We never done nothing of the sort. How'd you figure that out?
You will now give formal testimony once again. You will tell the court precisely what happened on the night in question, and this time you will tell the truth.
Each lie that passes your lips serves to increase the severity of your punishment. And that, gentlemen, may deal a crushing blow to your chances of ever seeing the light of day again. A thought worth pondering, perhaps. Say no more, Gov. We hear ya.
We'll blab, we'll squeak, we'll peach.
Illegal entry. The whole truth.
Alright, we did knock a few things over. but we weren't rifling it for nothing. It was when we heard the gunshot, see? Made us both jump, and all that stuff went flying. Lummy, it didn't give me a fright. We was thinking the shooter'd come out the door and get us next. We stuck everything back when we found it and scarpered straight into him in the black. We couldn't have shot the pawnbroker, see? We never even had a chance, did we? Well...
So you admit to the defense's accusation. You did indeed ransack Mr. Winterbank's countertop on the night in question.
Not ransack, Governor, no. That's right, Nash, that's right. It's more like we tidied up, yeah. Sorry.
By his own admissions, his brothers entered the pawnbrokery under dubious circumstances. However, they panicked and fled on hearing the gunshot, having first made goods a mess.
Well, you say we hardly sound like roughs at all. We don't, Nash, we don't. Can't he make us sound a bit more cutthroat?
It can't just be coincidence that these men showed up at Winterbank's that night. There's more to their testimony than meets the eye, I'm sure of it.
Illegal entry, the whole truth.
Alright, we did know some things over.
Hold it!
If that's the case, then why didn't you testify to that effect in the first place?
Well, you know, we ain't exactly squeaky clean, are we? We ain't, Nash, we ain't. If we admitted to something like that, people would think we was up to no good. Well said, Ringo, me old China. We'd only land ourselves in even more trouble.
And in fact, now, as a result of lying in your previous testimony, that's exactly what you've done. Landed yourselves in even more trouble.
Ah, well, that's rotten luck.
Says the rotten apple eater. Witnesses, explain your actions to the courts. Why did you ransack the victim's counter?
We never ransacked nothing. Right, Nash, right. More like we tidied up the place.
Oh, shit me. Was that... Did we move on to the second dialogue thing already?
Yeah, sorry. It was when we had the gunshot.
Oh, no, okay. Right.
Hold it!
Press. So what you're saying is... the sound of the gunshot shocked you so much, you knocked all those things off the counter.
Well, it shocked us. It shocked one of us that much, yeah. His bag of nose needs to learn to keep his shirt on. Oh, he was loud, all right. Blimey, me dead granny would have woken up at that bang. Big bruv here screamed like a bloomin' baby and fell over on the counter.
Over on the counter. Over on the counter.
He knocked over a load of books, a candlestick, and some skull whatnot.
How would he have been up on the counter?
I got tangled in some marionette what knocked over a picture frame what knocked him scales on the floor.
You've really mastered working quietly then.
What a racket, me granny would have been scared backed into a grave at a clatter like that.
So in short, the gunshot took you by surprise.
And then some. I mean, it was quiet as a mouse and then all of a sudden, bam!
Excuse me.
Inspector Gregson, do you have something to add? Like I'll keep saying, I don't appreciate being lumped in with these scoundrels. No, something to add about their testimony. You seemed to react just now at what Mr. Skulkin said. Did it make you think of something? It's probably nothing, of course. I wouldn't even bother to mention it, only, well, the fact is, cases don't get solved if you ignore the little details. How about you just tell us what's on your mind? As you know, we brought these fellows into the yard for questioning last night. And the statement they gave then told a slightly different story to what they're saying now. Sorry, I need a drink.
Did it?
You claimed you heard the victim shout something out before the... something... You heard the victim shout something out before the gunshot.
I must have, Gov, must have. It does ring a bell now to mention it.
Granted, it's only a minor detail, but still. I can't help feeling it like perhaps you've been a bit sloppy with your testimony here, fellas?
If I discover the witness's testimony has been any more sloppy than it has hitherto proven to be, I shall be forced to bring the very harshest punishment to bear against them.
Which at this time would be hanging, I imagine.
Easy, easy. We'll get it right this time. That's it, yeah. It's all coming back to me now.
Then speak. Supplement your testimony with whatever details have miraculously returned to your questionable minds, sirs.
What you are, Gov. Just before the gunshot, we heard a voice yelling out, "Give me that gun!"
Hold it!
So, in fact, you heard the voice and the gunshot almost simultaneously?
We did, Gov, we did.
Although, I suppose if you're being honest, we heard a kind of wavering voice before the yelling all.
If you don't want to get shot, give me that gun. Bam.
Kind of thing. Except that, you just shot him from the front. Career in acting tragically missed. And where were the voices coming from? Could you tell?
Of course we could. From the other side of that door behind the counters, was?
It was? From the storeroom, where the victim was found dead. And the voice you heard, it was that of the victim, Mr. Winterbank?
On me granny's life, of course it was. On his granny's life, of course it was.
It's your granny too, isn't it? So that would mean that you both knew Mr. Winterbank and the sound of his voice?
So that would mean what? What, Nash? What? Any ideas?
Yes, counsel, indeed it would.
Nah, we didn't know the geezer. How am I supposed to deny it when that bloke in all that fancy clobbers, in all the fancy clobbers, giving us that evil eye? What the fuck are we talking about?
If you value your lives, you will ensure your testimony is accurate and true.
On me granny's life it is. On his granny's life, it must be.
Okay. It's a good job his granny's dead. Summarize then, immediately after hearing the voice of the victim, you then hear the gunshot, causing you to stumble and upset the items on the counter, scattering them over the shop floor.
You make it sound like we're clumsy.
Don't forget we tidied up after, like good little boys. Anyway, the way I see it. The bloke on the place was holding a gun. So he shouldn't have just... So he should have just fired instead of yelling at the girl.
Hold it!
We've established that there's only two guns, though. So you're saying Mr. Winterbank had a gun in his hands?
Oh yeah, bet that was a sight, eh? Them two waving them guns at each other must have been pretty heated. I mean, just before he shouted out, we heard the geezer say, "If you don't want to get shot." It didn't really sound like he meant it, mind. More of an empty threat, you could say.
Mr. Winterbank was known to keep a revolver in the shop counter at all times. People say that to protect the articles in his keeping, he'd readily put a bullet in someone's head if required. That someone being himself, of course.
Good grief, extraordinary devotion indeed, if alarmingly misguided.
Well, he certainly sounded like he was ready to pull the trigger the other night. Only the person he was gonna shoot beat him to it. Cooked his goose proper. But he wished he'd squeezed the trigger instead of wasting time shouting, "Give me that gun."
And it was directly after those words that you heard the gunshot.
It was more or less at the same time, Gov. "Give me that gun." Bam.
Kind of thing. Yes, a career in acting. Very tragically missed.
Then we heard the sound of someone hitting the deck. Before everything went dead quiet. After that, we done a slapdash job tidying the place up.
Yeah, but that is very questionable.
And we didn't have Gimme a Fright.
Hold it!
So, you didn't try to open the storeroom door then?
Not on your life. It went deathly quiet after that, it did. Put the wind right up me. But anyway, the door was locked, wasn't it? No way that was opening.
Yes, of course. It was locked from the inside, or so we've been led to believe.
It was, Gov, it was. From the inside.
Right, so we had no way of knowing what was going on in there, did we? Unless there was some other way to get a view of the inside of the storeroom. Like through the keyhole, or a spy hole perhaps, or the actual window in the damn door.
Don't ring no bells, don't light no lights. We had to cut and run before we noticed anything like that. We're still cutting our teeth in this game, see? But one day, we'll really cut the mustard.
Please, cut it out. But as we know, behind the door was the victim's lifeless body, with the accused not 2 feet away. Yes, unfortunately. Gina was in there, unconscious, with the gun in her hand. Mr. What's-His-Face's gun. That we also have a photo of her pointing at him. He said that, yeah, I mean, that's the sticking point in the testimony, right? That's where I've got to start presenting something. To confirm, would it be correct to say that neither of you set foot inside the storeroom?
That's right, Gov, that's right. Couldn't have, even if we wanted to. We stuck everything back to where we found it and scarpered straight back into him in the black.
Hold it!
Yes, whereupon you fired a shot from your own gun at Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
We was a bit hasty there. We was, Nash, we was. Truth be told, I was already shaking like a leaf when you lot turned up.
You're shaking like a leaf. Don't put a loaded gun in your hand.
Good advice, miss, good advice.
Truth be told, me mind went totally blank.
Before your mind goes totally blank, make sure you don't have a loaded gun in your hand.
Mental note made, miss.
After that, we legged it down the street, but apparently we looked dodgy to the coppers or something, so we clapped the derbies on us like winking.
And after you'd been handcuffed, the police found this revolver in your possession, correct?
Yeah. Well, listen, that just proves it, doesn't it, eh? We couldn't have shot the pawnbrokers, eh? We never even had a chance, did we?
Hold it!
And why should we believe that?
Hey, what? Well, girls, it's true, isn't it? The place was totally empty when we went in.
At that time, the victim was already in the storeroom, having been forced to open the door by the accused who had a gun to his head. In other words, on the night in question, these two witnesses never even laid eyes on the proprietor of the pawnbroker, Mr. Winterbank. Correct?
You've got it, mister.
Oh, wait a minute, is that the little one?
Down to a T.
So the Skulkin brothers never actually encountered Mr. Winterbank? Is that really true, I wonder? That's it? That's the full extent of their testimony? What is it, Bruno? You look very fierce. I could pour you some herbal tea if you're tired. Oh, thank you, but I'm fine. Being such a logical thinker, you'll probably laugh, but I feel as though these brothers are still hiding something important. It's nothing more than a feeling, though. I've no proof to support it. Well, feelings can be very logical at times. Sorry. People's expressions, the movement of their eyes, the words they choose. You can take all that in, and your brain will quietly analyze it to come up with a feeling like you described. You've concluded that there's something suspicious about this testimony without knowing why, that's all. I think you should trust your instincts. Iris, thank you. Sometimes I think if she's 10 years old, I must be 5.
Alright, we did knock a few things over, but we weren't rifling for nothing.
Just before the gunshot, we had a voice yelling out, "Give me that gun." The bloke who owned the place was holding the gun, so he should have fired it instead of yelling at the girl. You're saying that on the night in question, the victim, Mr. Windibank, was wielding a gun, is that correct?
That's it, Gov. You've got the picture.
I've got the picture.
Yes, Nash, yes, no question.
And yet the photographic evidence from the time of the incident clearly shows that Mr. Windibank was not in possession of a firearm of any description.
Objection!
You surprise me. Does the defense really intend to highlight evidence that compromises the position of the accused even more?
Furthermore, the defense has failed to establish that the photographic print presented was taken a suitably short time prior to the victim's death. Your chronology is severely lacking, counsel.
Yeah, that's right. Too right, Nash, too right. How Geezer could have been about to turn the tables on the girl, eh?
Hardly likely.
No, I'm afraid this won't stand as conclusive evidence. Continue with the cross-examination, counsel, and heed my earlier warning, witnesses.
Skulkin's never skulkin'.
Well, I mean, listen, they testified that they heard the gunshot just after he supposedly, according to their testimony, said that, I'll shoot. So, what my implication in presenting that photo was that how? He would have had to have taken the gun off of her, or vice versa. But if she had shot, he would have been dead on the floor in the store, or in the shop, not the storeroom. This one's got me confused. No, what the fuck? Apparently I have to click outside the window first. Foldable stereoscope. We're in part 2 of the trial. Never had nothing to do. Encounter of the cross-examination point. Press statement 5. Ask whether there was anyone else. Wait, whoa. This is beyond where we're at here. Press statement 2. We heard the gunshot. Pursue Gregson. We get a new statement. Present the crime, or present the photograph at the new statement 3. Which was what? I thought I presented that at statement 3. Alright, statement 1. Statement 3. The bloke owned the place, was holding the gun, so he could have just fired it instead of yelling at the girl. Told a very different story last night. Question about the events. Heard the gunshot and the victim shot something. This alters the testimony. Present the crime scene photograph. The crime scene photograph? At the statement 3, we know it was Mr. Windibank's own revolver was used to kill him and Gino was found holding it. The brothers then dramatically reenact the crime, but their interpretation has a problem. Right. The facing. So, crime scene. Do we have a picture of that? We've got this. I guess it must be this then.
Objection!
So you're saying that on the night in question, the victim, Mr. Windibank, was wielding a gun. Is that correct? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's it, Gov. You got the picture.
Here we are, go again.
Yes, Nash, yes, no question.
And yet, photographic evidence obtained immediately after the incident clearly shows that Mr. Windibank was not holding a firearm of any description.
Now you what? Gordon Bennett, that ain't right.
Objection!
There can be no question that the victim's revolver was used in the incident. But it reminds the court that Mr. Windibank's gun was found at the scene. Not only was it identified as a murder weapon, but it was found on the accused's hand.
Yeah, that Molly Tulu used the victim's own gun to finish him off. Give me that gun. Bam.
Hold it!
Stay exactly where you are, right there.
Hey?
If the crime had taken place as you've so colorfully described in your testimony, it would give rise to an undeniable and significant inconsistency in the final moments you just acted out.
My goodness, are you sure, counsel?
You intrigue me, my learned friends, but let's see some evidence to support your claim. I just showed it to you. Here's the proof that demonstrates this inconsistency in the witness's portrayal of the victim's final moments. I literally just showed this picture.
Take that!
According to their testimony, the witnesses claim to have heard a shout of, "Give me that gun," followed by the gunshot.
Indeed, with the two events happening almost simultaneously, or so we've been led to believe.
Yes, that's right. Now, if that testimony is true, it would mean that at the moment of death, the victim and his attacker would have been facing each other. However, if I could ask the court to study the photograph of the victim's body again, you can clearly see that Mr. Windibank was in fact shot from behind. So, as I stated before, there is an undeniable inconsistency in your testimony, Mr. and Mr. Skulkin.
But it's the God's honest truth. It is, Nash, it is. When he was shot that night, the shopkeeper had a gun in his hand. We saw it with our own bleeding eyes.
Did I hear you right just now? You actually saw Mr. Windibank holding a gun?
Yeah, something like that might have slipped out.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have all just heard the admission by these two witnesses that on the night in question they actually saw, with their own eyes, the victim wielding a gun, which can only mean that despite their testimony to the contrary, the Skulkin brothers must have encountered the victim in person.
Yeah, Nash,
Order, order! Witnesses, explain yourselves at once.
well, the thing is, it weren't supposed to,
It would seem that my previous warning fell on deaf ears. I made it quite clear that false witness would be the death of you.
Am I to understand that you replaced the untruths of your original testimony with renewed lies?
I'm ever so sorry, Gov. Truth is, see, we, cut it out, Nash, cut it out. If we blab now, you know what he'll do to us.
He? Who are they talking about? Let me make your position here perfectly clear. You will talk. There is no other option available to you.
Bruv, come on, game's up. What do you have our guts for garters?
In case it hasn't quite sunk in yet, no matter how hard you try to hide it, the truth will come out.
On the night in question, it is now apparent that you brothers met face to face with the victim. I demand that you testify again to explain the precise circumstances under which this meeting took place.
Yeah, well, do we have to?
On pain of death, I suggest you make yourselves fully aware that this is your very last chance to tell the truth. Okay. Encounter with the victim.
Alright, so we just got inside the gaff and heaved a sigh of relief when the geezer showed his mug. Give me that gun, he's bellowed, and then he flew at us like he was possessed. I thought we'd had it. For an old geezer, that bloke was strong as an ox. He chucked me over the counter. I pulled me gun on him, and then he legged it through that door in the back room. He never had nothing to do with killing him. We never had nothing. That's all that happened, I swear.
So you're now telling us that moments before the victim was killed in the storeroom, you in fact encountered him in the main part of the shop.
Well, yeah, sorry.
Well, we find ourselves at an interesting juncture. This changes matters considerably.
But honest, Governor, this time, Ash, this time, we ain't got nothing more to hide.
Very well. Counsel for the defense, you may proceed with your cross-examination.
Yes, my lord. This is it. The moment I've been waiting for. Encounter with the victim.
Alright, so we just go inside the gaff and heaved a sigh of relief.
Hold it!
When you say geezer, I presume you mean the victim and proprietor of the shop, Mr. Windibank.
Who else? Sorry, I mean, that's right. We was keeping a close eye on the entrance to the gaff, obviously. But we never thought no one was gonna come out of the back room like that.
The back room being the pawnbroker's storeroom.
Yeah, that must be where he's popped up from. Only place he could have been.
So it seems the victim was already in the storeroom when these brothers entered the premises.
Which means Ginny must have been in there at this point as well.
But that doesn't make sense, does it? If Gina had threatened Mr. Windibank in the storeroom with her at gunpoint, then why would he have emerged from the same room all alone when the brothers arrived?
Oh, I don't know.
Did you see the accused at that time?
Oh, what, that mold Tula? I couldn't tell you. No way, Cobble. We had bigger fish to fry then. I mean, the old geezer just lost it. You mean that gun he bellowed, then flew at us like he was possessed?
Hold it!
You mentioned that Mr. Windibank shouted those words in your previous testimony, too. However, you claim that you heard him yelling them on the other side of the storeroom door.
Oh, did we?
But the truth is, he was shouting those words at you, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Was the victim, Mr. Windibank, wielding a gun at the time?
Was he ever, blimey lummy? A great ugly barrel he had, pointing straight at me frontispiece.
So what you're saying is, you definitely saw Mr. Windibank with the gun at that time, is that right?
It is, Gov, it is, spot on. And all of a sudden he came at us, he did. It was bedlam. I didn't know what was going for who was going for what. Who? Who?
You were clearly all going for each other.
Like Nash said, we thought we'd had it. I mean, for an old geezer, the bloke was stronger than ox.
Yes. Chucked you over the counter. Yes, I noted that you mentioned the counter in your previous testimony, too.
Well, yeah, of course we did. He knocked over a load of books, a candlestick, and some skull whatnot. They got tangled in some area in there, what knocked over a picture frame, what knocked them skills on the floor.
So in fact, it wasn't the sound of the gunshot that shocked you and made you knock those things off the counter?
Well, Big Bravia went flying over the counter like a gunshot, I'll tell you, and the old geezer pinned him. He did, Nash, he did. If you hadn't been there, the bloke would have flattened me like a bloomin' pancake in seconds.
At the time in question, the alarm was raised at the local police station via a secret cable from the pawnbrokery. There is a button under the counter used to activate it, which was presumably pressed by the victim. That's right. When the brothers fled the scene and back onto the street, they ran straight into the arriving police, didn't they?
Oh, Mr. Windibank, he did everything he could to protect his shop. I pulled my gun on him and legged it through that door.
Hold it!
Were you intending to shoot Mr. Windibank?
No, never. I was just, you know. Looking out for me brother, weren't I? He's what's been fighting, don't forget.
By a man whose shop was being burgled, yes. And then the man fled into the storeroom when you pointed your gun at him, is that it?
Yeah, that's it. He shoved me away, then ran off through that door and shot himself in.
There's something about that last remark. Something that doesn't quite ring true.
I wonder when Mr. Winterbank ran away into the storeroom.
What?
Well, according to what everyone's saying, Ginny was in there waiting for him, with a gun.
Ah, yes, that's right. Gina allegedly used Mr. Winterbank's gun to threaten him and force him to open the storeroom door. In which case, how did the gun end up in Mr. Winterbank's hands again?
I have no idea. But that is strange, isn't it?
So an inconsistency could be significant. I should make a mental note of it.
The point is, me and me brother here. That's right, Nash, that's right. Me and me brother here. We never had nothing to do with killing him. That's what all happened, I swear.
Hold it!
You say you had nothing to do with it.
Nothing at all. Nothing, Gov, nothing. The old geezer went and shot himself in the back room, didn't he? Locked it was from the inside. We know it was because we tried to open it. But it was a decent door, that one. Good and strong. Wouldn't budge an inch.
So in the end, the situation remains unchanged. Inside the storeroom with the pawnbroker, there was only one other person. The sole person who could possibly have shot the victim, the accused, Miss Gina Lestrade.
It would indeed appear so. What say you to that, counsel?
I don't know. Was there anyone else apart from Gina who could possibly have shot Mr. Winterbank?
There could have been.
Mr. and Mr. Skulkin.
Hey, what? What's that look for? What's that look for, sorry? Wrong voice.
From the moment you admitted that you'd encountered the victim face to face that night, the course of this trial changed completely.
It did?
What is your point, my learned friend? The question we must answer is who could have shot Mr. Winterbank, and it is the belief of the defense that the defendant is not the only possible answer at all. You have my attention. In that case, let us return to this plan of the premises. The victim was killed in the storeroom, which was locked from the inside. Those are the facts. So pray, what other possible answers to the question of who shot the man could there be?
Counsel, you must now provide answers to the court in respect of 2 conundrums.
2, my lord? Twice as many chances to be right, maybe?
Indeed. Namely, from what location did the culprit shoot the victim? And furthermore, where was the victim at the time?
Understood, my lord. Are you all right, Bruno? I'm not entirely sure. But there's one thing I am sure about. If I can prove that there's a credible new alternative to what happened, it would change Gina's prospect hugely. So now, time for some clarity. Shows the court on this plan the answers to the question posed by his lordship. If you believe someone else could have killed the victim, indicate from where that person could have fired the gun. Well, I mean, like, here? I guess?
Take that!
The defense believes the culprit could have shot the victim from this location here. And in answer to the second question, assuming the culprit fired from the location indicated, where was the victim at the time? In front of the door.
Take that!
Gina probably closed the door as he was running in. The culprit shot the victim from outside the storeroom. Continue. Mr. Winterbank died instantly from a bullet wound in his back. Looking at the stain of blood on the storeroom floor, it doesn't appear the body was moved after death, which tells us that he was almost certainly shot while he was in the storeroom. However, the crucial point is, where was the shooter when the fatal bullet was fired?
So you are adamant that the shot was fired from outside the storeroom?
Well, according to the Skulkin brothers' earlier testimony,
I pulled me gun on him, and then he legged it through that door in the back room.
if Mr. Windibank ran away through the door, we have to assume that the door was open at the time. It was at precisely that moment when the victim was fleeing for his life that these brothers had the perfect opportunity to shoot the man in the back once he was inside the storeroom.
Come to think of it, do you remember what the prosecutor said at the start of the trial?
Moving on to the findings of the Scotland Yard coroner, his report states the bullet entered the body on a rising diagonal trajectory. It means the victim was likely shot by someone significantly shorter in height than himself.
Oh man, shot while he was running as fast as he could to safety.
Of course. He would have been leaning forward as he was running away, so even if the bullet was fired horizontally, it would still have entered the body in an upward trajectory. Or, you know, we could have gone with the simple answer, which was Shorty McShort there.
So the culprit isn't necessarily someone shorter than Mr. Windibank?
Objection!
I'm sure my learned friend can't have forgotten that the storeroom door was found closed and locked from the inside. You claim the victim was shot as he fled into the room. You also claim his corpse was dexterous enough to turn the key in the lock. But what if someone else locked the door? Yes, there is someone else who could have locked the storeroom door. Is that so?
Very well then, counsel. Present your hypothesis to the court. In the scenario just described, the defense's assertion is that the victim was shot from outside the storeroom, in which case, who shot and locked the storeroom door from the inside?
Take that!
Obviously, the person who locked the door was the only other person inside the storeroom at the time, the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade.
Objection!
That's absurd. You're suggesting the accused deliberately engineered the sealed room? For what possible reason? Such actions would only serve to tighten the noose around her neck.
I'm inclined to agree, I must say. Well, counsel?
Yes. That's a tricky one, isn't it?
Half-baked notions have no place in my courtroom, counsel. Please remember that.
But of course Ginny would have locked the door. It almost goes without saying, doesn't it? It does?
Well, if I was Ginny in that situation, I know I would have locked the door as quickly as I could. I mean, those two burglars had just fired a gun in her direction, hadn't they?
Oh yes, obviously. Before the two brothers arrived, Miss Lestrade and Mr. Windibank were in the storeroom together. Now, I don't know what went on between them at that time, but at this point, Mr. Windibank must have heard the intruders breaking into his shop and left the storeroom.
Intruders, eh? That's us, bruv.
If your theory is correct, that would leave the accused alone in the storeroom. Yes, it would. Then, probably only moments later, the victim fled back through the storeroom door, hoping to escape danger. Hit in the back by the bullet, Mr. Windibank fell to the floor where he was, just inside the storeroom. And what we have to ask ourselves now is, what would the defendant have done in that moment?
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
With this? Outside the storeroom was a terrifying killer who had just murdered Mr. Windibank. As soon as that thought struck Miss Lestrade, she slammed the door shut and locked it, in order to save her own life.
Hold it!
But I mean, we ain't the ones who've done it. We ain't, Gov, we ain't. You've got to believe us. I mean, come on, we'd never shoot no one.
Then why do you have a gun? That's blatantly untrue. I know for a fact that you would, because before my own eyes, you shot Mr. Herlock Sholmes. There's only one logical conclusion here, and Mr. and Mr. Skulkin, you brothers had every opportunity to have been the true perpetrators of Mr. Windibank's murder.
Yeah, well... Yeah, where does this leave us? You mean to say it wasn't a pickpocket who shot the pawnbroker after all? I should have known it was those three brothers. They look as shady as a dense forest. It was amazing, Bruno. All the members of the jury seem to be firmly on your side now.
I know. First time ever. Probably the last.
No, I think you've done it. Surely they'll have to give a verdict of not.
An admirable effort, my learned friend. What's this now? He's laughing.
You find the situation amusing, Lord Van Zeeks? I myself find the defense's argument most persuasive.
I dare say, such chicanery is the bread and butter of the street performers in your provincial eastern nation, but such blatantly malicious conjuring tricks amount to nothing more than inexcusable pettifoggery here. What? The hypothesis you put forward so ostensibly, credibly, cannot and will not stand. Because you see, it contains a fatal flaw. A fatal flaw? Do you mean to tell me that you're unaware of your logic's failings? The fact that the bullets would have had to come twice out of the gun, which I again called earlier that Gina ran out of the storeroom and she's the one who accidentally shot Sherlock Holmes, and then ran back and locked herself in the thing. Probably fainting after, oh my god, I just shot the guy.
I say, Lord Van Zeeks, there might be an idea to explain this bally conjuring trick or whatever it is to the troops on the ground.
The fatal flaw in my learned friend's arguments is really very simple to understand. Assuming you're not too dim-witted to count bullets. By George, count bullets! Oh dear. He noticed then. Huh? What's everyone talking about? Counsel. Yes, sir. Tell the court, how many bullets were found at the scene of the crime? Two. 2 bullets. Correct. The first, that which hit the victim in the back, ending his life. And the second, that which struck the detective, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, on his arrival at the scene.
Indeed. The defense presented a picture showing the damage caused by the second bullet early in the proceedings. The bullet which injured Mr. Sholmes appears to have passed through his body to strike the calendar.
Your lordship's understanding is correct. Furthermore, we know there are 2 firearms involved in the incident. A revolver belonging to the victim, Mr. Winterbank, and the Skulkin brothers' revolver. The evidence shows that a single bullet was fired from each gun.
Yes, indeed it does. A single bullet from each.
Now then, my learned friends. You yourself told the court on a moment ago that these 2 brothers shot Mr. Sherlock Holmes right before your eyes. Yes, I did. My goodness, I think you'll find...
And if the single bullet that was fired from the brothers' gun hit Mr. Sholmes, it means...
Winterbank not shot by same gun. Stop. Only 1 bullet. Stop. Exactly. Yes, this Nepalese street performer presented an ostensibly credible argument. However, it was never anything more than a diversionary trick, with no hope of standing up to scrutiny.
Order! Order!
Oh, my eye. Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging the dregs of this hallowed nectar into the public gallery.
Lord Van Zeeks!
But this court needs to open its eyes. The accused, Miss Gina Lestrade, is no ordinary little girl. Despite her young years, she can, regrettably, no longer be described as a juvenile. No, the person in the dock is far from a law-abiding citizen. She has a past riddled with criminal conduct. The truth is, the accused broke into the pawnbrokery on the night in question with loathsome intent. As we can see beyond doubt in this print, which depicts her threatening the victim with the murder weapon. And I have here in my possession one more piece of evidence the prosecution wishes to present. A disc. I'll be taking that, whatever it is, of McGilded. Oh, you don't give it to him. It's mine. And then we get to test the blood and then we get to see who it is. I'm sorry, miss. Anything belonging to McGilded is be taken as evidence now. Yes, that music box disc. McGilded's music box disc. The very day before the hateful murder of Mr. Winterbank, the accused attempted to make off with the article, which clearly does not belong to her, and with none of the subtlety of a pickpocket, I might add, but by brute force and brazen impudence. Good gracious. Make no mistake, any sympathy for the accused on account of her years is misguided and dangerous. There are no depths to which this girl would not stoop if pushed, no crime she would not commit. The court forgets that fact at its peril.
I say, I think it would be prudent to take this music box disc into evidence, counsel, as a grim testament to the defendant's character.
Yeah, Lord Van Zeeks, Inspector Gregson? What? Yes, Inspector. We had a meeting yesterday in the yard with the prosecution service, and, I think it was agreed that the disc wouldn't be used as evidence. What's this all about? Why is the inspector acting strangely? That's the first time he said anything to Van Zeeks at all. I'm unaware of any such meeting. But those were the instructions, right from the top. The government bigwigs was insistent. Inspector, I am the prosecutor, and I alone determine how to present my case. Your warning is noted, thank you. The prosecution wishes to proceed with submitting this disc as evidence, my lord.
Indeed, bailiff.
Now we get to check for the blood. The prosecution has established the accused's motives, opportunity, and baseness of character. There's nothing more to add. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I await your informed decisions and rest my case. Don't believe it. I had the jury on my side for once for all of 5 minutes. Oh dear, it wasn't even for 5 minutes, Runo.
My lord. I wonder if I might say something at this point. Proceed, Mr. Foreman.
I've been stumbling about in a bit of a fog up till now, if truth be told, but all of a sudden, the answer is wholly obvious to me and my men. There's only one thing for it. No.
Very well, the court will hear from the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, you will present your leadings as to the defendant's culpability.
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty!
Guilty.
We have a consensus among the jury, it seems.
When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. That's my line. I wrote that for Hurley. How dare he use it against us? Don't worry, Iris. I don't think we're finished yet. There's still more to this case than we realize. There must be, because there's one thing that I'm absolutely certain of. Gina didn't shoot Mr. Winterbank. That's beyond any doubt.
Very well. We will proceed with the second summation examination of the day. Mr. Foreman, are you and the other jurors ready?
Yarodeb Squadron is primed and ready for action, sir.
Very good. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have now determined the defendant to be guilty.
Next time